Definitely started modeling way too young, and I wouldn't recommend it for my own daughter, no. And I wouldn't recommend it to your daughter or anyone else's daughter.
She dated rock gods, married billionaires, and showed up to runways at 50, making the young girls nervous. While other models were posing pretty for Vogue, Stephanie Seymour was grabbing life by the throat, starring in Guns N' Roses videos, fighting million-dollar lawsuits with Axl Rose, and turning down offers most models would kill for. Her beauty was undeniable, but it's what she did with it that made her legendary. From underage affairs with powerful men to wild nights with rock stars, from catwalking for Victoria's Secret to posing for Playboy twice when high fashion models just didn't do that. Stephanie wasn't playing by anyone's rules but her own. So let's dive into the jaw-dropping story of the supermodel who didn't just model like a rock star, she lived like one too. The early days. Let's start at the beginning. Stephanie was born in San Diego, California in July 1968. She wasn't exactly discovered in some fairy tale moment at a mall or soda shop like other supermodels. Nope. Stephanie hustled her way in. At just 14, she started competing in local modeling contests in Florida, where she grew up. By 15, she was a finalist in the first ever Elite Model Look competition in 1983. Crazy, right? She didn't even win, but that didn't matter. Industry folks were already noticing this tall brunette with killer curves and a face that could launch 1,000 magazine covers. Even as a teenager, there was something different about Stephanie. She had this confidence, this presence. Her face was beautiful, sure, but it was her body that really broke the mold. At a time when the industry was obsessed with rail-thin models, Stephanie came in with curves, real curves, and she owned them. "I always knew I was different," she once said. "I wasn't one of those girls who could do high fashion and commercial. I was pigeonholed as sexy from day one." But here's where things get complicated. At 14, yes, 14, Stephanie got involved with John Casablancas, the founder of Elite Model Management. He was 42 and married. Let that sink in for a second. A grown man, a modeling agency boss, dating a teenage girl. They even lived together for a while in the mid-'80s. The fashion industry back then was the Wild West. No rules, no boundaries. This relationship launched Stephanie's career, but at what cost? It set a pattern that would follow her: powerful men, complicated relationships, and living life in the fast lane before she could even legally drive. By 16, Stephanie was already working steadily, modeling for local newspapers and boutiques in Florida. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was experience. She was learning the ropes, figuring out her angles, understanding what made her special in front of a camera. That early grind, the less sexy side of modeling that people don't talk about, it laid the foundation for everything that came later. The rise to supermodel status. By 1988, Stephanie was no longer just another pretty face. That year, she hit 2 major milestones: her first Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue appearance and her first Vogue cover, shot by the legendary Richard Avedon. Doors were opening and Stephanie was running through them. The late 80s and early 90s were the golden age of supermodels, and Stephanie clawed her way right to the top. Vogue, Elle, Harper's Bazaar, she was everywhere. Richard Avedon, who shot her for those iconic Versace campaigns, said she combines a perfect body with a dynamite brain. High praise from a man who'd photographed some of the most beautiful women in history. But here's what made Stephanie special: versatility. She could do high fashion editorials for Vogue one day, then turn around and pose for Victoria's Secret catalogs the next. She became one of the original Victoria's Secret angels, back when that actually meant something. Her curves made her perfect for lingerie, but she had the face and the walk for haute couture too. And then there was Playboy. Stephanie posed for the magazine twice, in March 1991 and February 1993. This wasn't the typical career path for a high fashion model. Most would never risk their editorial cred by posing nude. But Stephanie? She didn't care about those rules. She was building her own playbook. By this point, Stephanie was part of that elite squad of supermodels who dominated the 90s. Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, Linda Evangelista, Christy Turlington, Claudia Schiffer. These weren't just models, they were celebrities. As Anna Wintour put it, those girls were like movie stars. They transcended fashion to become household names, commanding fees of $10,000 a day or more. What separated Stephanie from the pack was that body. In an era when heroin chic was becoming the trend, that super skinny waif look made famous by Kate Moss, Stephanie stuck to her curvy guns. She had hips, breasts, an hourglass figure that photographers loved. As Allure magazine described her, she had the perfect for the 90s figure. Fashion in the early 90s was all about extremes. On one end, you had the grunge movement, Kurt Cobain in flannel, Kate Moss looking like she hadn't eaten in days. On the other end, you had the glamazons, the Cindy Crawfords and Stephanie Seymours of the world, with their big hair and bigger personalities. Stephanie was firmly in the latter camp and proud of it. She appeared in campaigns for Versace, Valentino, and Dior. She walked runways in Paris, Milan, and New York. Designers loved her because she could sell a fantasy, the kind of woman men wanted and women wanted to be. She wasn't just modeling clothes, she was selling sex appeal, confidence, attitude, and in the world of fashion, that was gold. By the mid-90s, Stephanie had multi-million-dollar contracts with L'Oreal Cosmetics and Victoria's Secret. The girl who started out in local Florida modeling competitions was now one of the highest-paid models in the world. She had the career most models dream of: diverse, lucrative, and seemingly unstoppable. Love and rock and roll. While her career was skyrocketing, Stephanie's personal life was equally eventful. At 20, she had a brief marriage to guitarist Tommy Andrews. They had a son together, Dylan, born in 1990, but the marriage lasted about as long as a fashion trend, roughly a year. Then came the relationship that would cement her rock star status forever, Axl Rose. Yes, that Axl Rose. The wild-haired, leather-wearing, primal-screaming frontman of Guns N' Roses, one of the biggest rock bands on the planet. They started dating in mid-1991 and quickly became one of the most talked-about couples of the decade. This wasn't just any celebrity pairing. This was a supermodel and a rock god when both were at the absolute peak of their powers. Stephanie didn't just date Axl. She became part of Guns N' Roses mythology by starring in two of their most iconic music videos. In Don't Cry, she plays Axl's love interest, but it's her role in November Rain that really made history. Let me paint the picture. Stephanie in a short in front, long in back wedding dress, marrying Axl in an epic 9-minute mini-movie that's been viewed over 1.8 billion times on YouTube. The cake, the rain, the tragedy, pure 90s melodrama at its finest. And Stephanie, with her supermodel intensity, sold every second of it. It wasn't just for show either. Axl and Stephanie got engaged for real, and for a moment, it seemed like the ultimate power couple was about to become official. But their relationship was as explosive as one of Axl's stadium shows. They fought hard, loved hard, and eventually crashed and burned in spectacular fashion. When they broke up in early 1993, it wasn't with a simple press release. No, they went full Rockstar with dueling lawsuits. Axl sued Stephanie, claiming she assaulted him and stole $100,000 worth of jewelry, including her own engagement ring. Stephanie fired back with a countersuit, accusing Axl of physical abuse. She even dragged Axl's ex-wife, Erin Everly, into it, subpoenaing her to testify about Axl's alleged pattern of abuse. The whole messy saga played out in the press, giving everyone a front-row seat to their toxic love story. Eventually, they settled out of court, but the damage was done. During their relationship, Stephanie got a taste of rock star life from the inside: the tours, the parties, the excess. The paparazzi followed her everywhere, documenting every fight, every reconciliation, every wild night out. For a brief moment in the early 90s, Stephanie and Axl were like the Kurt and Courtney of the mainstream, a volatile, passionate, headline-grabbing couple that seemed destined to either change the world or implode spectacularly. They chose the latter. The Billionaire's Wife. Just when you think Stephanie's story couldn't get more dramatic, enter Peter Brandt, billionaire publisher, art collector, and polo enthusiast. Oh, and he was married to someone else when he and Stephanie got together in 1993, right after her split from Axl. The high society circles were buzzing about Brandt leaving his wife Sandra for the supermodel. But Stephanie didn't care about the gossip. By December 1993, she gave birth to their first child, Peter Brandt II. The couple married in Paris in July 1995, a lavish affair befitting a billionaire and a supermodel. With Brandt, Stephanie stepped into a different world, one of immense wealth, fine art, and privilege. They settled into a 300-acre estate in Greenwich, Connecticut, complete with polo fields and an art collection featuring works by Andy Warhol and Jeff Koons. They had 2 more children together, Harry in 1996 and Lily Margaret in 2004. The Brandt estate wasn't just any rich person's home. It was practically a museum. Their property even featured a Marilyn Monroe painting by Andy Warhol worth millions. Stephanie went from dating a rock god to living with actual Andy Warhols. Talk about a lifestyle upgrade. Brandt wasn't just wealthy, he was a major figure in the art world, publishing Interview magazine, founded by Andy Warhol, and collecting contemporary art with an obsessive passion. Through him, Stephanie entered a world of gallery openings, artist dinners, and high society events that were a far cry from backstage at a Guns N' Roses concert. She adapted to this new world with the same ease she had adapted to the fashion world years earlier, proving once again that she could move between different spheres effortlessly. For a while, it seemed like Stephanie had traded in her rockstar life for one of domestic bliss. She scaled back her modeling to focus on motherhood, but the drama wasn't done with her yet. In 2009, after 14 years of marriage, Stephanie filed for divorce from Brandt, and things got ugly fast. We're talking Billionaire Divorce ugly. The court documents were juicy. Brandt claimed Stephanie had substance abuse issues and tried to force her into rehab. Stephanie sought a restraining order against him, alleging threatening behavior. It got even wilder. A security guard hired by Brandt shoved Stephanie into a door during an argument. Stephanie found a GPS tracking device under her car and accused Brandt of spying on her. Their dirty laundry was being aired for all to see. The divorce was so messy that the judge ordered Brandt to pay $270,000 per month in support while proceedings continued. Yes, you heard that right, per month. Then, in a twist no one saw coming, they reconciled in 2010. They showed up to court holding hands and withdrew the divorce. Somehow, they patched things up and have stayed together since. Stephanie later said, "We didn't do the right thing, the smart thing, but we did the hard thing. And we fought for what we have." The scandals keep coming. Even with her marriage back on track, Stephanie couldn't seem to stay out of the headlines. In 2011, paparazzi caught her and her 18-year-old son Peter Jr. in what looked like an overly intimate embrace on a beach in St. Bart's. The photos went viral, with people questioning their relationship. Peter Jr., who is openly gay, quickly defended his mother, explaining that the photos were taken completely out of context and that his family is just very affectionate. "She's my best friend," he said, shutting down the scandal before it could really take off. Then, in 2016, Stephanie stirred up what the media dubbed Supermodel Gate. When asked about the new generation of models like Kendall Jenner and Gigi Hadid, she jokingly called them bitches of the moment instead of supermodels. It was clearly meant to be lighthearted, but in the age of social media, it blew up. Kendall Jenner fired back, accusing Stephanie of cyberbullying. Stephanie eventually apologized on Instagram, saying she had respect for these hardworking beauties. Crisis averted, but it showed the generational divide between the original supermodels and the Instagram era. That same year, Stephanie was arrested for DUI in Connecticut after backing her Range Rover into another car. She appeared intoxicated and refused sobriety tests. The charges were eventually dismissed after she completed a rehab program, but it was another bump in her roller coaster life. The DUI arrest wasn't just a minor blip. It hinted at deeper issues, echoing Brandt's earlier claims during their divorce proceedings that Stephanie had substance abuse problems. Like many in the fashion industry of the 80s and 90s, Stephanie had been exposed to a world where drugs and alcohol were commonplace. The party scene was part of the job, in a way. The after-parties, the club openings, the champagne-soaked celebrations after successful fashion shows. For some models, the pressure and the accessibility created a perfect storm for addiction issues. But unlike some of her contemporaries who publicly struggled with substance abuse, Stephanie kept these battles mostly private. We may never know the full extent of what she went through, but the DUI arrest was a rare public glimpse into that side of her life. In a strange way, these scandals only reinforced Stephanie's rockstar image. She wasn't a sanitized celebrity with a perfect Instagram feed and an army of PR people. She was real, flawed, sometimes messy, just like the rock stars she'd loved. The comeback queen. Despite stepping back from full-time modeling to raise her family, Stephanie never fully left the industry. She would pop up occasionally for special projects, a Gap campaign with her sons in 2006, editorial spreads celebrating the supermodel era, and runway appearances that reminded everyone why she was an icon. One of those moments came in 2019 when Donatella Versace surprised the fashion world by having Stephanie close the Versace Fall/Winter show. At 50 years old, strutting down the runway in a black bondage-inspired gown, Stephanie proved that supermodel magic doesn't have an expiration date. The crowd went wild, including Stephanie's own mother, who was sitting front row, beaming with pride as her daughter proved she still had it. In an industry notorious for discarding women after 30, Stephanie's runway return at 50 was revolutionary. It wasn't just nostalgia. She looked damn good. The walk, the presence, the attitude. It was all still there, maybe even better with the confidence that comes with age. Her business ventures showed her evolution too. In 2014, she became a global spokesmodel for Estée Lauder, embracing her status as a beauty icon at any age. And in 2017, she launched her own luxury lingerie line, Raven and Sparrow, applying decades of lingerie modeling experience to designing pieces inspired by vintage boudoir glamour. "I've worn so much lingerie over the years, I know what makes women feel good," she explained at the line's launch. "This isn't about sexy for someone else, it's about feeling beautiful for yourself." Tragedy strikes. Just when it seemed Stephanie had settled into a new chapter, tragedy struck. In January 2021, her son Harry Brandt died from an accidental prescription drug overdose. He was just 24 years old. Harry had been following in his mother's footsteps, modeling, dabbling in makeup design, becoming a fashion it boy alongside his brother Peter. But behind the glamorous Instagram posts and front-row fashion appearances, he struggled with addiction. Harry and Peter were fixtures in the New York social scene, known for their flamboyant style and bold fashion choices. They were called the New York version of Paris and Nikki Hilton, and made waves with their gender-fluid approach to fashion and beauty. They even launched a unisex makeup collection with MAC Cosmetics in 2015. Harry's death was a shock to the fashion world, but more importantly, it was a devastating blow to Stephanie and her family. He was just coming into his own, carving out a space for himself in the industries his parents had dominated. He had his mother's beauty, his father's eye for art, and a style all his own. His potential seemed limitless. For Stephanie, it was devastating. She largely withdrew from public life to grieve. 2 years later, in a rare interview, she revealed that she keeps Harry's memory alive by sometimes wearing his clothes. "It makes me feel closer to him," she said. This wasn't the kind of rock star drama she'd lived through before. This was real, crushing pain. But somehow, Stephanie kept going. She focused on healing alongside Peter Brandt and their remaining children, showing a resilience that went beyond her supermodel image. The legacy today, in her mid-50s, Stephanie Seymour lives a quieter life than she once did. But her impact on fashion and pop culture is undeniable. From teenage model to 90s supermodel icon, through romances with rock gods and billionaires, tabloid scandals and family tragedies, she's lived a life most people couldn't even imagine. What makes Stephanie different from other supermodels of her era? Maybe it's that she never played by the rules. While others carefully curated their image, Stephanie followed her heart, sometimes right into chaos. She posed for Playboy when fashion models didn't do that. She dated Axl Rose when supermodels were supposed to be with movie stars or businessmen. She closed a Versace show at 50 when models are typically put out to pasture at 30. Looking at fashion today, you can see echoes of Stephanie everywhere. The celebration of curves, the bold sensuality, the refusal to be pigeonholed. These are all aspects of modern fashion that Stephanie helped pioneer. In an era of Instagram models and carefully controlled personal brands, there's something refreshing about looking back at Stephanie's career, her willingness to take risks, to be messy, to live out loud. Richard Avedon called her a perfect body with a dynamite brain. But maybe it's more than that. Maybe what made Stephanie Seymour an icon wasn't just her beauty or her brains, but her fearlessness, the willingness to dive into life head first, take the hits, and keep coming back stronger. So what do you think? Was Stephanie the last of the true supermodels? Did she really live the rockstar life? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let me know which iconic model you want me to cover next.